But the main thing I've been doing this week, I have been playing Trek to Yomi, which came out on Game Pass this week.
Done that too.
Okay.
You've done that too. This is a game made by I've lost who made it. Flying Wild Hog, who made the what did they make? I want to say Shadowrun, but that's not it. Shadow Warrior, the recent versions of Shadow Warrior.
It's good that.
Out.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, the Shadow Warrior 1 and 2, they're good then.
Yeah, I haven't played Shadow Warrior 3 yet, though. That's supposed to be pretty good as well.
Oh, no, there was a 3?
Yeah, it came out about a month ago.
Fuck! Oh, good then. They're good games now. They're just daft shooters, because you don't have to be good at shooting to play them.
Yeah.
And believe me, I'm not.
Yeah, well, you might get a shock with the third one then. So Trek to Yomi is it's a side-scrolling kind of samurai combat game, heavily influenced by old samurai films, especially like the kind of the Kurosawa style of films. It's entirely presented in black and white, or kind of grayscale, very cinematic, and very short. In the game, you play a samurai called Hiroko, yeah, who is the samurai for the village that he lives in, which is beset on in the traditional Japanese film kind of standard, is set upon by bandits who kill everyone, and he has to go on a nice little revenge story. Unlike the classic samurai films, however, Yomi is the Japanese concept of an afterlife. This gets a little bit Dante's Inferno.
Ooh,
as you
the 9 circles of hell.
Well, sort of. You have to go. The title Trek to Yomi is not a spoiler. You have a Trek to Yomi. You die.
Damn it!
That is literally the point I've got up to.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to venture into Yomi to do things to get your revenge, and it gets a little bit spooky and supernatural, and it's an absolutely beautiful game. And I'll say it up front, it's one of the best looking games. Like, when you look at screenshots of it, the screenshots look beautiful, but when you see it in motion, like, every shot is very cinematically placed. So when you're in combat, it's always side on, left to right. There's no jump in or kind of lateral movement. When you're not in combat, it tends to be a little bit like that Resident Evil fixed camera angle kind of exploring of the environment. Basically, you know when you're hitting combat because it goes side on and he pulls his sword out. The game looks amazing in motion. I put this down as maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10 based on the fact that I think they've put so much time and effort into how it looks. They've kind of neglected a little bit of the gameplay. I found it quite simplistic. Like, the only boss I struggled with was the very last boss. I kind of breezed my way through it, and I did it in 2 sessions. It took me about 5 hours to get through, which apparently is about the average for getting through the game. But yeah, the combat is just kind of like you run up to guys, you press X a couple of times and kill them, move on to the next one. And as is tradition in samurai films, the guys come at you one by one. You never get ganked.
That's because of respect.
You can have 10 enemies on the screen at once, but they will, in order, come at you from both directions. To the point where you actually can't disengage from the one that's engaged with you and fight a different one. Like, they will just keep backing away from you. You have to basically fight the one that's coming at you, which I thought was a little bit weird. Because of the visual presentation, there are a few little weird quirks. There are some combat sequences where the camera is so far zoomed out for this epic cinematic shot, it's fucking impossible to see what you're doing. Like, like the combat encounters I struggle with.
You've got a super wide monitor as well.
I was playing it on the Xbox, but I was some of the combat encounters I struggled with most were because the cameraman was 15 miles away. Like, honestly, it was so far away, and because it's
I like
all
the
in
idea
black
of a
and white,
cameraman behind the game.
Yeah,
I want that game.
because it's all in black and white and grayscale. Like, you can have an area where because your character is usually one of the darkest things on screen. You can have an area where you literally can't see where he is. That you have to until you kind of wiggle him and move him out of the way, which is fine in exploration, but when you're in combat, that gets you killed a lot. To kind of counter that, the game is really generous with stuff like checkpoints. Like, usually you'll get a combat sequence and then there'll be a checkpoint right after it, which really does the bonfire-y thing and fills up your health. So it's kind of not really that much of an issue. I managed to abuse my way through all the bosses in the game until the last one. Like, some of the bosses are so easy to cheese, it's unreal. You're kind of front loaded with some very powerful abilities quite early on. The last boss, however, felt to me like I was doing like a proper samurai duel. Like I really enjoyed the last boss. Other bosses in it, I wasn't so bothered with. I think this game would have been a 10 out of 10 if they had a bit more of the Sekiro style combat to it, where you had to master parries.
Yes.
Or if you had a Makiri counter or stuff like that when you're fighting pikemen and stuff like that. There was one other weird graphical issue that I found. I was talking to Debbie Punk about it, actually. He spotted this one as well. Because the game's in black and white, it's also entirely in Japanese, so it's subtitled. They have white subtitles without a border on them. So if you're in a bright scene, you can't see what's going on in the story. Which happens more than once. There are so many lines of dialogue. I had no fucking clue what was going on.
There's no accessibility options.
No, because it's
2022.
Yeah, it's a really low budget indie game, but visual, like you say, if you can put those things aside, it's stunning, and it's on Game Pass as well. So it's a good way to spend a Saturday afternoon. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad game or anything like that. Like, I have quite a few criticisms of it for different things, but I still played it through to the end. Like, after I did my first kind of hour or so of it, I thought, am I going to finish this or am I just going to play something else? But no, I went through and I played it through to the end, and I actually, by the end of it, there were a couple of bits I was like, I fucking hate this game. But then I got to the ending cutscene, I was like, actually, on balance, I really enjoyed this game. So if you've got Game Pass,
it's the second game you've beat in the past 5 years as well.
Fuck you. And your chicken strips.
I agree with you, Gadget, from what I've played so far. Like, visually and the sound and everything looks stunning. There's bits where you kind of walk across a bridge and you're going for a combat, and the time the lightning strikes behind you, like, perfectly.
Yeah, that
so
shit's amazing.
you're coming down, like, fighting
with
that. Everything like that looks so good. And I've taken a load of screenshots as I've been playing it.
Yes, same here.
The combat is very repetitive. Once you find a combat system, like, combo that works for you, you just use that. I just use that one. You know, where you can where they come behind you and you just press back and X and you turn around and
you swing
slice
around.
Easy one kill. And you just wait for them to come to you, turn around and do it.
There are some enemies a little bit beyond where you are where that is not a valid use of your time.
Yeah, but it's one that it's taken. I've played a couple of hours, and that's one I've been spamming.
You're halfway through, kind of do that
up XX, like slicing up and stuff. There's a few like when you can kind of knock them, can't you, and then do like a kill button, which like knocks them to the ground and chop their heads off and stuff, which is fun. Some
of the stuff when you get into Yomi is actually really kind of beautiful. Like I mean, not just like the locations, but like kind of the way the world is designed and like the kind of this representation of the afterlife. It's why it reminds me of kind of the Divine Comedy, and kind of like it's this kind of strange otherworldly place. Because I didn't expect it to do that, because there was part of me thinking, is this going to do the Sekiro thing and get a bit supernatural? No, I can't do that. It's gone Kurosawa style. No, it goes supernatural. But in a good way, actually, in a way that I quite enjoyed. So yeah, especially if you've got Game Pass, it is worth your time to investigate. You might not like it, you might. I think also some of my criticisms are, especially around the combat, is kind of amplified by the fact that I've just come off Elden Ring. That might have something to do with it.
Yeah, there is that.
It's like when I went from Bloodborne to The Witcher 3 and hated The Witcher 3 for a long time.
You did it in the wrong order.
Did it in the wrong order, yeah. But play Track to Yomi. It's really good.